This tutorial will help you complete the Chapter 4 guided practice. We're going to start by opening a new Notepad++ document. In our new document, we are going to start by putting in the basic structure for our web page. So first up is our doc type HTML. Then we're going to open an HTML tag and close it. And then inside that HTML tag, we're going to open a head tag and close it. And inside our head, we are going to put a meta char set equals UTF-8. And then that is a tag that we close at the same time. And then we also want to put in a title. Open and close that tag. And the title for this one is going to be Oceanside Hotel and Sports Club. Alright, underneath the head, we're going to open the body. And then go ahead and add a closing body tag as well. Then we're going to save this file. So go to File and Save As. And then be sure you change to your student drive and into your web page design folder. And then I'm going to create a new folder in here called Chapter 4 Guided Practice. And we're going to name this one oceanside.html. And click on Save. Once we have it saved as an HTML file, then all of our tags should highlight. And remember, when you click on something, you can see its closing tag, so that lets you know whether everything is opened or closed. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is add a banner image that will show up centered across the top of our web page. Now there's several ways that we can do this. For this one, we're going to add it inside the body. I'm on a line 11, and we're going to put it inside a div. So I'm going to open and close a div. Now I want this banner to be centered, so in my opening div tag, I'm going to add an inline style, and I'm going to say text align center. And then on line 12, we are going to put in our image source. And you should have downloaded a file called oceansidelogo.jpg from our Canvas course. So that's the file we're going to insert. And we want to set the width to be equal to 866. And the height is 259. The alt text is going to be Oceanside logo. And for our style, we are going to do a box shadow. And then our box shadow has certain properties. You should have taken notes on this. So we're going to do 10 pixel, 10px, space, 10px, space, 12px. space, and then we need to put in a color, and we're going to do hexadecimal, so we put in a hashtag or a pound symbol, 888888. Okay, at this point it's going to be a good idea for us to test to make sure we actually have a website that's pulling up. Now you do want to make sure that your Oceanside logo.jpg that you download from Canvas, hurry and make sure that's inside your Chapter 4 guided practice folder. If you haven't put it there yet, go ahead and move that. And then I'm going to save this with a Control S, and then I'm going to open a browser to display my website here. And here's what we get. We have Oceanside Hotel and Sports Club, and then here is our banner that we inserted, and then here is our box shadow that was added to it. So you can see we have the color that we used was that gray. So on ours we did 10 pixels horizontal, and where it's a positive value it shows up on the right side. And then we did 10 pixels vertical, and where it's a positive value it shows up at the bottom. And then we have it blurred 12 pixels, and that's what makes it not a crisp, sharp image there. And then the color was controlled by the hexadecimal value. So those are all the style elements that we put into that. Okay, now I'm going to do a little split screen here. That way, as we make changes here, we can refresh our screen and make sure those changes are functioning the way we want them to. Okay, the next thing we want to do is create a navigation bar that's going to go underneath our banner that we put on here. The easiest way for a beginner to create a menu bar or a navigation bar is to just use a table for that. So we're going to be creating our first table here. So I'm going to be on line about 15. So I'm going to move my text down there. And we're going to start by putting in a break tag so that we have one extra line underneath before our stuff starts. And then we're going to add table. And then we're going to add a class to our table, and then we will have to actually create our CSS file that would have this class information. But we'll go ahead and add the classes right now. So we're going to do a class called menu, and for our style we're going to do border style none. And that makes it so that there is no border around the outside of our table. So it'll just look like floating text. Alright, then we are going to put in, we need to close our table before we forget. And I guess I better have a closing angle bracket right there. Okay, so now if I click on table, I see that it's purple because it's closed. Okay, now within our table, we are going to add a table row. That's what TR means. And then let's go ahead and close our table row. And then inside our table row is where we're going to put our table data. So we're going to do a table data, and we'll give this a class. And we'll call this one menu icon, all one word. And then let's go ahead and put in our closing table data tag there on the same line. And then we'll click in between those to put our information. Okay, we're going to create a link here. So ahref equals oceanside.html. And hopefully you're thinking, well, wait a minute, that's the name of the file that we're creating right now. but that's because we're going to create a home link where it takes you back to the home page no matter what page you're on. And we like our navigation to be the same on every page, so even though we're currently on the home page, we're going to add it as a part of our navigation. Okay, and rather than typing in text, we are going to put an image here. And so we're going to do image source equals home.gif, and we're going to set the width to equal 50 and the height to equal 21. And then our alt text on this is going to be home. Then make sure you close that tag. And then we also need to close our link. So we put a closing A right there. Okay, now we're going to save this, and then you need to at this point make sure that your files, the other files that were downloaded from Canvas, like your home.gif, golf.gif, tennis.gif, dining.gif, make sure all of those are in your folder, your Chapter 4 guided practice folder, and then we'll be able to refresh our screen. But before we refresh, hurry and check that those are in there. Okay, as long as your files are all there, make sure you save this file and then come to your browser, and we are going to hit refresh. Okay, and we should see our home come up there. Now, obviously this is just our first element and we don't have everything added to it yet, but this is a good start. We know that it's working. Okay, back over here, let's go to line 18. And we're going to add a dividing line, a pipe, in between our buttons here, or our links. And we're going to do that by putting in another piece of table data. So open and close that. And for this table data, we're going to put class equals menu pipe. And then we're going to put a pipe here. And this is, to do a pipe, you do Shift and the backslash key, which is right above your Enter key. And that just puts a straight line. All right, if you want to save that and then refresh your screen over here, you'll see that little pipe show up. It's really faint right now, but it will show up there on your screen. Okay, so we're in good shape so far. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with our other elements, and this is something we could try copying and pasting. What I mean there is I'm going to highlight what I did on line 17. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to go to line 19 and paste it. Now the thing I have to change on here is I don't want this oceanside.html to be there anymore. I want it to be golf.html. And instead of home.gif, I want it to be golf.gif. But I want the width and the height to stay the same, and then my alt text I need to change to golf as well. And if I save that and refresh, you'll see that that's a much faster way to get all of our information in. If we're duplicating stuff but just changing an image or changing some basic text, let's use some copy and paste. Okay, we want to have a pipe in between that one, so I'm going to copy the text from line 18 and I'm going to paste it onto line 20. And on this one, it all stays the same. I don't need to make any changes. Alright, then on line 21, we're going to add our next link. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and copy line 19. And paste it in. And for this one, instead of golf.html, we want tennis.html. And instead of golf.gif, we want tennis.gif. And our alt text we will change to tennis. And then our width and our height will stay the same. Then let's add a dividing line in between. And then we have one more, line 23. So I'm going to copy my text from 21. And instead of tennis.html, this one is going to be dining.html and dining.gif, and alt text is going to be dining. And then we'll save and refresh our screen over here, and you'll see our other tags. Now, it's not looking beautiful yet, but that's because we still have to make some changes. We have to make sure that we get our CSS code to go with this so that it'll spread things out the way we want them or center them where we want them. Okay, we need to add some paragraphs of text to our website next. And we're going to go underneath our table. So on line 27, make sure you're still inside your closing body tag. And we're going to put a paragraph of text here. I'm going to hurry and get mine keyed in. You are welcome to, I know you guys type at a different rate than me, so pause the video if you need to. If I get done keying mine in before you, go ahead and pause the video, finish typing, and then you can start the video back up. Alright, after you get the first paragraph keyed in, make sure you put a closing paragraph tag. And then on line 29, go ahead and open another paragraph and close it. And then we're going to key in another paragraph of text. Now inside this paragraph we are going to put an email link. And then to style this, we're going to put in a span. And then close your span. And inside your span, we are going to do a style equals text decoration underline. And then in between your two span tags, we are going to put oceanside@isp.com. And then outside of your span, put your little period to end your sentence. Okay, so a lot of changes. After you get those both keyed in, go ahead and save and then refresh your screen over here. And you should have two paragraphs of text, and then you should have a mail link, and that link should be underlined because of our text decoration that we added. Now I just noticed that I am missing a quotation mark, there we go, in front of mail to. I noticed that I have another error. I forgot to close my href, my link. Now normally when we click on an email link, it should open up the default email account. I think on the school's computers that is disabled. So we could test it by right-clicking and copying the email address, and then if you wanted to just come in and maybe paste that and make sure that it definitely does oceanside@isp.com. If that looks okay, then we know that it's technically linking. It just doesn't work on school computers. You could test it at home and it would work just fine. Alright, make sure you delete that back out of your file, out of your HTML file, your code here. We just wanted to make sure that it was copying the right email address and that we didn't have any errors there. Okay, now that we've got all of our data here for this first page, we want to create our external style sheet, or our CSS file, that will go with this. And so there's a few steps we have to take. We have to create a file that we're going to use, and then we have to link that file to our document, our HTML document, and then we need to test it to make sure that that link is working. Alright, so we're going to add another file to our Notepad++. So we're going to go to File, New, and now we have a second tab here. And in our second tab, we are going to create a CSS file. Now let's go ahead and save this file before we get into it too far. So let's go to File and Save As, and make sure we're in our Chapter 4 Guided Practice folder. And we are going to name this one Styles ch4.css. We have to give it the extension CSS. That stands for Cascading Style Sheet. That's the type of file that is designed that it can link with an HTML file if we tell it to. So we're going to click on Save, and now we have both files here, our oceanside.html and our CSS file. So let's create our CSS file, and then we will link it to our external, or to our HTML file. And actually, you know what I want to do? Let's create the link. That way, as we add the code to our CSS file, we can update our HTML file and make sure that it's working correctly. So to link this, we're going to go to our oceanside.html, and we're going to go to the end of line 6. We have to be inside our head tag, so inside our head. And I'm going to press enter 2 times. And what we do is we add a link. And then we do rel equals, and then in quotation marks, we tell it that it's going to be looking for a relationship with a style sheet. So we put style sheet in quotation marks. And then we tell it what type it is. This type is going to be text/CSS, and then we do an href equals, and then we put the name of the file. So styles, whoops, I need quotation marks on that, styles ch4.css, and then we put our close part of that tag. This is the standalone tag, so it closes just inside itself. Alright, it doesn't look like I have any errors. Biggest thing is, do I have this spelled exactly like I have it in my file name? And then text/CSS. So I'm going to save this. That creates our link. Now, let's add some CSS to our style sheet here. So inside here, we're going to say body. Notice this codes it in blue. And I'm going to tab twice, it looks like. Well, let's see what happens if I just space once. Okay, when we program in CS, I put in body, and then I need to do an opening curly brace, and then I'm going to press enter twice, and I'm going to put in a closing curly brace. And then everything that I program for my body has to go inside these curly braces. Now, if you want things to look nice, I tend to tab stuff over. I think in the book it has stuff look a little bit different. I guess we can make it just look just like the book. It's harder to read, but we can do it this way. So inside our curly brace here, we do font-family, :space, centaur, comma, And then we're going to do, in quotation marks, century Gothic, comma, Arial. And then a semicolon. This is kind of like writing a sentence. So our sentence says our font family is going to include Centaur, Century Gothic, and Arial, period. End of sentence there. I don't like it this way. I'm gonna do it like I would do it if I was creating my own and not following the book here. Then on the next line, I'm going to do font size, colon, and then I'm going to do 14 point, and then a semicolon would be like the end of the sentence, or a period. So now I'm saying my font size is going to be 14 point, period. Alright, let's save this, Control S, and then let's refresh our screen over here, and you should see that your body text, anything that's inside the body, the font size just changed. So all these changes we made here happen to the entire body. Okay, back here I'm going to press enter twice, and let's change what happens to a paragraph. So I'm going to put in P. I'm going to put a tab so that these line up. Alright, so inside my paragraphs, I'm going to say that I want the margin left to be 10 point, period. So I did margin hyphen left, colon, 10 point. Now if something does not change this purplish gray color, then it's an incorrect CSS code. There's something wrong with your code, it's not going to work. So it does kind of help us out. Then we're going to say margin right, colon, is 10 point. Alright, let's save that and refresh over here, and you'll see that our margin bumped over on our paragraph. Now it did not affect our table because we told this only to take place on our paragraphs of text. Alright, next up, let's change how our links look. So a link is an A, or an anchor. So I'm going to put in an A, and then tab over, opening curly brace and a closing curly brace. And what we want to do is set the text decoration to be none. And then we want to do the color to be black. And notice that that did an override on that blue color on our mail to link. However, in our HTML code, we told the mail to link to be underlined. Now this text decoration here says none. So we can override our CSS code in certain parts of our document or our page by writing an inline style. An inline style will override a CSS or an external style sheet. Alright, next let's change the appearance of our images. So images are inside an IMG tag. And let's see, let's make a border color that is transparent. Right now I think it defaults like with a 1 pixel black border. So by doing border color transparent, that should go away completely. And we really don't see much of a change just because of the type of image we have there. Next, we're going to format our table elements, and this is really going to change the way our navigation appears. So in our table, first of all, let's change the width to be 65%. That means it'll spread the table out to automatically take up 65% of the width of our screen. Then we're going to do a margin left, auto, margin right, auto, And what that will do, if I do a margin left and a margin right, both of them set to auto, and I have my width at 65%, it kind of does the same thing as centering, but it centers it and then it splits that 35% that's left and it divides it by the two sides. Let's do our border color to be hexadecimal value 545859. And then border style, ridge, and then border width, 10 pixels. Save that, and then we're going to come over here and refresh. Now, we put in a border color and a border style and a border width, but we didn't get any border here. And the reason we didn't get any border there is because we told it inside in our inline styles, we told there to be no border. And so that inline style is overriding our CSS code. Now, why are we putting this in? Because we are going to use it later in another part of our document. But notice that our table did spread out over 65%. Now, these images are not centered inside our table yet, but we will fix that part. Okay, after our table, we want to apply some code that goes to one of the classes we created. Now, we created, if I look back on my HTML, we created a table class called menu. So I am going to tell it that anything that is a part of my menu class, so I'm going to put .menu, and notice menu goes in red, that means it's a class. And then I open and close my brackets. That menu, let's say that we want our text align to be center, and our width to be 60%. I'm going to save that and come here and refresh, and notice what it did. It only addressed that table, that part of our table, because we set a class here called menu. So in our CSS, we can set apart sections of our code by defining a class style, and then here to access a class we put a period to indicate class, and then the class name, menu. And it affects anything that we give that text or that class name to. It could be a part of a table, it could be a part of an image. We can use that class menu anywhere as long as the formatting works with that. Okay, another class we created was menu icon, so I'm going to put period menu icon. And on this one, let's set the width to be 23%. Now that menu icon class is the images that we added. So this is going to affect the images. If we save that and refresh, you'll see that it adjusted them just a teeny bit so that the width of those is 23% of the cell. Alright, another class that we added that we can change the formatting on is menu pipe. And for this one, we're going to say width is 1%. And that is going to shrink that cell size that our pipe is in, and it brings in our navigation just a little bit more. So every little change tweaks things just a little bit. Okay, those are our classes, and those all kind of go as a part of table right now. That's why we put them underneath our table. Now let's format our table header, or our header row. And we're going to do color white, and background color hexadecimal value 757775. Okay, looks like that didn't make any changes because we don't have any table header text right now, but it will probably come into play later on. Another thing, we're going to add a table row dot stripe. So I'm saying table rows with the class name of stripe. I don't think we've created this inside our file yet, so we'll see where this takes place a little bit later. And on this one, we're going to set the background color to be hexadecimal value D8D8CE. And then we're going to do table data boulder, table data.boulder, so td.boulder. Again, another class that we have not created yet. And this one we're going to do the font weight bold. And then we're going to create a formatting for a caption. And we're going to do caption side bottom. That will move the caption to the bottom instead of the default, which is the top of your table. And then we're going to do a font style italic. Okay, that is a ton of code that we have added. I'm going to refresh our screen. So most of the changes took place in the formatting of our paragraphs and of our navigation right here. At this point, it does suggest that you might want to validate your code by going to our validator at validator.w3.org. That would help you find any errors. If you followed along carefully with me, you could just compare yours there, but maybe run a validation as well.